I'll burn the pancakes and probably the house too, but baby, it's stuck to me like glue.
All right, here we go. Who am I? My name is Evelyn. I am 34 years old. I recently bought a condo in downtown Long Beach, and I have an extraordinary and wonderful best friend who is also my child, who is also my pet. His name is Sebastian. He's a charming tuxedo. Meow. Sitting next to me as I drink a cup of tea, talking to you. So, I'm like a lot of you guys. I am a part of the daily grind right now. Wow, my dishwasher is having hysterics right now. That's funny. I'm just like you guys, maybe a lot of you guys. I don't even know if you could say middle class anymore, but I'm probably like lower middle class, hardworking gal who's currently going through the gig life, I guess you can call it. In my early 20s, I worked in entertainment, in real estate, in the cannabis industry. I did VIP catering. My last job was Uber and Lyft for almost 2 years. And now currently I am a medical courier. So I can understand what it's like from being in the corporate world to doing that day-to-day hustle and grind rat race mentality. But I do think it's important to note, at least the way I look at it, you can kind of make the life you want for yourself without needing to be a part of a certain status or food chain, I guess you could call it. I was raised evangelical Christian, and I was extremely sheltered growing up. I remember I wasn't really allowed to watch kid TV shows. My parents kind of raised me on, like, growing up at an early age. I was watching, like, James Bond movies with my dad, and he likes to share the story that I was, like, in kindergarten or first grade, and I went to my teacher screaming, "My dad's a horrible dad. He made me watch this movie with sex and blood and violence." The teacher told my dad, "What the hell did you make your daughter watch?" And he was like, "James Bond." I'm definitely obsessed with James Bond nowadays. I think he's like my dream man. That's a whole other conversation. I also watched movies growing up like disclaimer, I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I kind of like got out of my bed and was watching through the banisters upstairs this movie called The General's Daughter. This is a very weird tangent. And I specifically remember when that movie came out, I couldn't have been more than like, I don't know, 8 years old, 10 years old. And at a very young age, mind you, this is before the internet, before kids got exposed to all these different things. And I remember the last part of the movie where this girl basically worked in the military before a lot of women were in the military. And I remember watching this girl being strapped down to the floor, her hands tied, her feet tied, pinned to the ground. And all of these men, one by one, raped her until she died. And I remember that thinking that was incredibly traumatic at that age. But I guess my point to sharing this is that At a very young age, I was exposed to a lot of adult things. And my parents kind of raised me to be around like older people. So, I kind of had a pretty big intellect since I was pretty young. My mom, right before parties, would like sit me down, like house parties, and she'd basically like scream at me and say, like, you need to behave. And this is the way you need to act. And this is the way you need to talk. And if you step out of line, ... My mom went through a lot of struggles when she was raising me, some hormonal stuff, as she likes to call it. And there were some pretty, hairy times growing up where my mom was physically abusive. She was mentally abusive. If I talked back, she would fill my mouth up with soap and, make me like rinse my mouth out with soap for talking back. My favorite, my parents growing up, my mom would say, do you want a lecture from your dad? Or do you want to go to the kitchen and pick out your weapon of choice? And that is what I will beat you with. I always chose the beating because my dad's lectures were quite lengthy. And I think growing up, they kind of pegged me as like this ADD child. So for me, hearing a lecture for like 2 hours, I mean, it felt like the whole night. It was like, that was more traumatizing to me. Anyways, I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of like kid stuff growing up. I really wasn't really familiar as a child to like Nickelodeon or Disney. And on the rare times that I would go to a sleepover, I'm like, oh, wow, what's this show? So I didn't really have, I would say, the typical childhood that a lot of people do, or some people do, I guess. I always said, growing up, like my mom, I believed growing up that my mom kind of raised me to be a caretaker for her and to be a mule. So I was always cleaning, lifting things, like helping my mom out. She still does. She has a lot of health problems where, she'd be really, really manic for like a week, like intensely manic. And then she'll just be down for like a month and just be in bed. In my opinion, I did a lot of raising myself. My dad was the financial provider for the family, and he worked crazy hard, super long hours. He basically worked like 70 hours a week for like 30 years. Like he only recently retired. And I'm glad that he got to see retirement because that was a lot for him. But that also meant that he was kind of like the avoidant one. My mom was the anxious attachment. My dad was the avoidant. So I had two opposite extremes going on, and I didn't have too much of a relationship with my dad growing up because he was always working and he was always busy, and he would come home so tired and stressed that he kind of left the raising to my mom. So yeah, I was raised pretty heavily Christian. And like I said, evangelical. So man, we were crazy. I'll say that. And it took me a long time to kind of gain my own independence. And it wasn't until I was 18 that I really started having more mature friendships, where it was the first time I ever felt like I could like lie to my parents to kind of create my own independence. And I mean, I was a show choir kid, so it was all very nerdy stuff. But I used to have like an old Beamer. It was adorable. And my my friend at the time was like, hey, let's go to Burbank and hang out with the Burbank, show choir boys. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's take my car. But you got to fill up my gas tank, because if my mom finds out that, my gas tank went lower, I'll be screwed. And, we told my mom that I was down the street watching a movie at the cinema, and really I was like 40 miles away. And it seems like not a big deal, but, when you're raised pretty conservatively, it was kind of intense. And if I wasn't where I was supposed to be, like my mom would chase after me, and also my friends. And my friends got really scared of my mom. And I mean, that's a whole other story. Why am I telling you this? It wasn't until I was 21 that I had my first orgasm. I think I was probably 19 when I had my first alcoholic beverage. I had a boyfriend when I was like 17, or like my first real love. And he cheated on me and broke my heart. And I think I was thinking about him until like college. I mean, I liked that guy from third grade to like sixth grade. Then he moved. And then we dated when I was like a junior in high school. And then it took me until I was almost college until I reconnected with a guy who absolutely hated me, could not stand me in high school, that I kind of idolized. And it wasn't until I was like 21 when I reached out to him on Facebook. And as he put it, he saw a girl with a kind of a hot profile picture. And he was like, oh, it looks like, Evelyn kind of became hot and maybe is slightly normal. Like, let's reconnect. And we went on a date and went to this coffee shop in Orange County. And oh my God, we spent like 6 hours talking and closed the place down. And very shortly after, we started dating. That ended up being a relationship that did not stop for 9 years. And, I learned a lot about myself during that time, because my plan was, you have one objective: get out of the house as quickly as you can, find a boyfriend, because you haven't really ever had any man type experiences, and that's all you really want is a boyfriend. And then get a condo, get married, get a condo, start a life with that person. That was my main and only objective. And life definitely had other plans in between. I would say I'm not a Christian anymore. My ex was an atheist and broke my mom's heart, because I was having problems with the church anyways, and was bouncing around to a bunch of different churches and different denominations and tried to make it work. And things were just like off. I didn't like the hypocrisy or the gossip and the drama and the backstabbing. And I was like, this is church. This is baloney pie. And so I kind of left my faith, but I always believed in something. And it wasn't until after my divorce that was finalized when I was 30 that I became spiritual. A lot happened during that time. It was pretty intense. I'll just leave it at that for now. And it wasn't until, I needed to be spiritual to stay alive. I'll just say that. I needed something to believe in. But to be honest, I'm 34 now, and as of recent, I kind of weirdly made the decision that I don't really want to be so spiritual. I don't think I believe anymore that there's like an entity or a God, that someone is guiding you and loving you and creating this journey and path for you. I wanted to believe in fate. I wanted to believe in destiny. I wanted to believe that some sort of universal whatever had a plan for you, and they loved you and they were guiding you. To be honest, I just don't think I believe that anymore. I think as of late, it's kind of turned into a trust the process, trust life along the way kind of thing. I'm a firm believer from a lot of things that I've done in the last few years, that when you work hard for something and you don't stop and you don't quit, no matter what it is, that you can achieve your goals. Now, will I call that God guiding you or shaping you or molding you? Nah, I wouldn't. My mom would, but I firmly believe, like, when you set your mind to something, anything, and you keep going and you don't quit and you don't stop, that hard work pays off. And it's your hard work and it's your efforts that get you to achieve what you want. And I don't think that's God. I think it's you. It's kind of a work in progress, you know. I think as you go through different chapters and phases in your life, you kind of learn new things about yourself and you go along the ways. I did for a couple years, like I said, because I was trying to stay alive. I really kind of explored a lot of different theologies, and I was super against like horoscopes and astrology, like growing up. I hated when people would come up to me at a party. Hi, how are you? What's your sign? And I would roll my eyes like, what? Why does that matter? Why are you asking me that? Kind of pissed me off. But to answer that question, I am a Scorpio and a Libra. I am both. I am a big, fat, walking contradiction, and it shows, and it is quite hard to navigate both, but there are two very distinctive sides of me that really kind of contrast each other and kind of make for an interesting life, I guess you could say. But, you know, I'm not really so much into that anymore. And I'm trying to sell my tarot card deck. And I gave away my Magic 8 Ball. And, you know, now I'm on a new journey. Wow. Okay, so that's a tangent. I am an extremely hard worker at a very young age, from people that I very, very much loved. Really kind of, I don't want to say, I'm just going to say it, kind of gave me some bad advice. And I would say I felt obligated to listen to people and believe whatever people told me was true because they loved me or because they were a quote professional or an expert. And growing up, that did not serve me. It crippled me a lot. It made me lean on other people and not make decisions for myself. It was quite a big issue, actually. And it wasn't until after my divorce where things really changed. And I had to like make a decision for myself. Like, hey, I'm going to go down a very intense, very dark road by myself, and we're going to see what happens. Just to give you some perspective, you know, maybe like 6-8 months before I got a divorce and I separated from my ex-husband. And I unfortunately remember saying this, and he was kind of traumatized by these words. I told my ex, I cannot be alone. If I lose you, I would die. And I think I meant that literally. Like, I had just a shriveled up sense of security. I had little to no life experience on my own, and it showed. I had raging, absolutely debilitating, like over the top, nauseating anxiety. And my depression was catastrophic. I, at a very young age, went to a doctor who, you know, in hindsight, I just needed a therapist, but I needed to talk to somebody about what I was going through. But instead, I didn't know any better, and I went to a psychologist, and he's like, "You're bipolar." And so he hiked me up on all this meds, maxed out the doses that you could take. I was on 3 different medications, and I took it for about 7 years, and it almost killed me, literally. I had suicidal ideation. I had raging depression and anxiety. And I thought to myself, I cannot get out of this. I took copious amounts of cannabis. I was a blinker, as you would call it. I would smoke my pen until it blinked every single time, multiple times a day. Never did flower. For cannabis users, like, you would know what that means. I strictly only smoked concentrates, and it was not good. I'll just say that. I'm actually adopted, and my biological mom was murdered in a fire. But before she was murdered, she was like in a home, which I guess modern day would be considered like it was kind of like a rehab facility for people. I feel like it was kind of different back then, but basically, like, she was a low income person, and, they forced her to have a roommate, and that roommate happened to have been a pyromaniac. And why am I telling you this? Because she was an addict. She did a ton of drugs, and had a very terrifying upbringing. Never got the support that she needed. And ironically, she tried to clean herself up because that was the only way to get help, was to go to rehab. And talk about the fucking 90s, you guys. They basically told my mom, you can't get help if you're sober. You have to actually be on something. So unfortunately, my mom took back on drugs to get the help that she needed. And unfortunately, they weren't able to protect her. Why am I telling you this? Because I found out when I was 29 that I was predisposed to elements of how my mom lived, basically from so many drugs. And yes, I believe cannabis is a drug. MDMA, mushrooms, everything of that sort that I took, to ketamine to try to cope with my depression, led to an episode. And we could talk about that another day. But I basically lost my mind temporarily for a good 4 to 5 months. And I was alone in my condo. My ex separated from me. He just packed a bag and said, see ya. And I was alone, going crazy, out of my mind, writing on the walls, and lost it. And it took me a long time to recover, a lot of work. I found a therapist. After that, I moved in with my aunt and grandma. I didn't have a room, but I stayed on their couch for 1.5 years or 2.5 years. I must say it was 1.5 years, almost 2. On a couch, no room, no closet, no privacy. And, I literally hit rock bottom and was trying to find a reason to live. My aunt knew that I was struggling and that I kind of wanted to die. And she said, hey, I'll make you a pact. If things don't get better in 6 months, you're allowed to kill yourself. Until then, don't fucking do it. And to be honest, I talked a lot of talk. I never had a plan to actually do anything, but I was depressed enough to kind of mentally let myself go. I never had a plan, and I never wanted to kill myself. I just let myself go, is what that ended up being. Sleeping in a lot, not working, smoking, just kind of giving up on life and not planning for a future. And I was kind of preparing myself to just live with my family forever, because a lot of stuff happened and it was hard to get through. And something wild happened. I knew I'm very strong-willed. I'm very resilient. I'm very strong. I'm very brave. Not because I wanted to be, but because I had to be. And there was always something in me that was like, no, I'm going to fucking get through this because I'm stubborn. And so I called 30 therapists to try to get some help. I was desperate. None of them responded except for one. And it took me like 4 months to find this therapist. And the interesting thing is, nobody responded except for her. And she turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me in my growth and my self-development. And I saw her every single week for 3 years. And now I still see her, but it's once a month. And we've made a lot of progress since that time. And I got to tell you, it's a night and day difference. I worked my ass off to get myself to a better place. And in no way was it easy at all. And I had very little support. But my therapist was my everything. She was extremely helpful. And at the time, I ran some errands and helped my aunt and grandma who were disabled, and was able to save some money on rent, and got to a place where I was able to work a normal job again, save up some money, move out into my studio in Long Beach, and stayed there for about 3 years. And then another very intense incident happened with some unfortunate trap house neighborhood folk. I'll just say that. That led to a complete catastrophe. Home invasion, drugged, raped, trafficked, held hostage. A lot of really bad things happened. And that was worse to go through than the first time. But I think at this point, I had hit so much resilience, and I just wasn't going to take no for an answer. At this point, I was living in an apartment on my own, paying my own rent, taking care of everything on my own. And I was like, this is not going to be the end for me. And I recovered again, got back with my therapist, picked myself up. But this time was a little bit different. I said, Evelyn, you're not going to quit before you start anymore. You are not going to work on goals and not finish them. This time, for the first time in your life, I want you to pick a goal and do not fucking stop until you get there. So I lived in a pretty dangerous part of downtown Long Beach, and I was not safe where I was. But I did this whole kind of self-preservation thing, did what I could to try to survive. And I told myself, you're going to stay in this fucked up situation until you get better for yourself, until you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And for me, that was getting a condo, something that I could own myself, something to prove to myself that, one, I was capable, two, that anything was possible, three, to kind of change what people thought about me. And that wasn't the first most important thing, but I had a lot of friends and family that pegged me to be a certain way, and I wanted to let them know that ain't me. Family and friends, that ain't me. And so I worked for an extremely difficult goal, which not a lot of 30-year-olds do, especially not with, expensive corporate jobs. Believe it or not, while I was doing rideshare, was working 50 to 70 hours a week, driving around, meeting all these people, met thousands of people, had thousands of conversations and shared memories with strangers. And it was a very interesting time of my life. And I kept grinding no matter what anybody was saying, because I had a personal goal for myself and I was not going to let myself down. And I told myself, you're not leaving this fucked up situation until you've made it even better for yourself. So I worked and 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 I worked. No vacations, no dating, no socializing, very minimal just to keep myself like alive and going. But people were like, you need to fucking stop. Like, you'll get a condo, Evelyn, but maybe it's not now. Maybe it's in 10 or 15 years, or maybe when you get a husband, or maybe when... And I was like, nah, you guys don't get it. You guys don't get it. I'm doing this and I'm doing it now. And I'm not stopping until I get there. And against all advice or opinions of other people, I just kept going. And almost 2 years later, I bought my first condo on my own. No other name on the deed other than mine. And now I've been in this place for almost 4 months. I'm extremely proud of myself. And it kind of created a new mindset for myself. And what I achieved, or what my goal was to achieve, is what actually happened. I now know I'm capable. I now know anything is possible. I now know that, you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. You just can't give up. You are going to have discipline. You are going to have to sacrifice. And, I'm still in that daily grind because now I got a mortgage to pay for. I got a cat to feed. I got me to feed. My joke to myself is, at this point going forward, I want to get to a place where I can pay my mortgage, have a quality of life, not anything too lavish, but I'm looking for a SoCal livable wage. And God damn it, I need to make enough money to have Pepe's sausage breakfast burritos whenever I want. And, everything kind of, there's like a give and take. If you want to have a condo, well, you're not going out to eat. You're not buying food for yourself. Like, there are things that I'm not able to do to kind of keep my income going. And I'm still grinding hard. I'm still working a minimum of 50 hours a week at this job I've been working at for a few months. But I'm doing it. And I guess that leads me kind of to my next point. Why am I doing this podcast? Well, I didn't really know how to word this before because I was like, well, how honest can I be? Like, aren't there certain things I have to say because it's politically correct or because whatever? And I'm like, no, I'm going to be straight up with you why I'm doing this. I've been grinding very, very, very long hours, very physically and very mentally demanding on me, that I really want a quality of life. I am a firm believer that I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live, if that makes sense. And I want to have a quality of life for myself. I want to work towards being remote. I want to fucking spend more time with my goddamn cat. I want to still work insane hours, but be able to do it on my own terms. Having autonomy over my own schedule, not having to have a boss, not having to deal with office politics or adult babysitting. Oh my God, I used to work for the government, and my God, I have never seen so much drama. It was like people just lived for adult babysitting. It was like, I went in there to work and they're like, oh yeah, we don't work. We just like shit talk and spread rumors and backstab and make you do all the work. And oh my God, it was just a catastrophe over there. Anyways, so why am I making this podcast? I want to start my own goddamn business. I don't think you have to have millions of dollars starting your own fucking, media company. And then from that millions of dollars, now you can let other people run your business and then you can finally do your passion project and have a podcast. I mean, I'm not one of those. It seems like a wild concept to do a podcast for money when you're not like, I don't know, a billionaire or a model or whatever the fuck people do, a clinical psychologist, whatever. To each their own, really. But I want to be able to do this as a business. I want to treat it like a business, and I want to be able to have a quality of life for myself and be able to go on hikes and travel and help family out, help friends out, and be able to relax the brain more, be able to spend more time working out and taking better care of myself. I think I've taken off plenty of enough years off my life, so to speak, growing up, and I'm not trying to waste any more time. I want life to be quality. And I do think it's possible, and I think I learned that from my condo. So that's why I'm doing this podcast, for me. I don't know if you wanted a different kind of answer and that I needed to put it back on you and say, I'm doing this for you and world peace and the love of all humanity. Sure, that's a part of it, but it's for me and my cat, Sebastian. So I don't know if you need a better reason than that. But no, I'm a lover of philosophy. I'm a lover of love. Oh my God, don't even get me started about love. I am a love-addicted psycho. That should be a band title. That'd be a great band title. But no, I'm joking. I'm a very passionate person about life. I used to be a big activist for, local communities in Long Beach, would help out different organizations. And I have a clothing exchange that I do in Long Beach, just out of the kindness of my heart. No profit, it all comes out of my pocket, my time and labor and money and all of that. But I do care for people, but I do think life is very challenging sometimes, especially lately, I would say in the last 5-7 years. I got to know a lot about myself, and I'm pretty much an introvert. I'm pretty good at putting on a show or a face if I feel like it's necessary. But I get very overstimulated pretty easily. I'm still working on managing my stress levels and how I behave and how I cope in life when I'm stressed. And I enjoy helping people. I enjoy giving unsolicited advice. But, I don't think you have to have a podcast and be 15 years certified therapist with all this experience. I don't think you have to be a celebrity. I don't think you have to, be given TED Talks or win the Nobel Peace Prize in order to say what you got to say. I wanted to create a space where someone in real life, someone like you, the person that's driving in the beat up Yaris next to you, is accomplishing really amazing, awesome things. And I didn't need millions of dollars to do it, or I didn't need a certain kind of status to do it, or I didn't have to be on the top of the fucking pyramid food chain in order to do it. And I think that's what's going to make this podcast unique. I'm not trying to be like anyone else. I fucking hate trends. Oh my God, don't get me started on trends. I remember when Tron came out, the first one 1 billion years ago, and I was scoffing at people. I was like, don't even fucking talk to me about Tron or Avatar. I am not into the whole what everybody else is doing and saying kind of thing. Don't even get me started on the quote fashion style that came out a couple years ago that won't fucking stop. That whole athletic trend and the Lululemon bit. Oh my God. Yeah, no, not me. I don't follow trends. I side note, I used to stalk people in high school that were at that point in time called indies, which stood for independence. I think it morphed into this like disgusting facade called hipsters. Hipsters are just poser indie people, to be honest. Am I saying that right? Possibly. Anyways, I used to like take pictures of, no joke, I would take pictures of kids behind trash cans or poles and document them, print out pictures, and then study them. Study how they walked, how they talked, their fashion sense, like what they would do, because those particular type of people were interesting to me. They were lovers of art, of music, of culture, of diversity. They didn't fit a certain mold. I remember, like, I asked him one time, how do you dress so incredibly? Like, how did you even put that together? And one of them said one time, you literally just throw something on without thinking about it. And I was like, that's kind of super rad. You put yourself together without having to worry about what someone else is thinking or doing or how you're going to come across. And you were your most authentic self. You were genuine. And that's kind of what kind of molded and shaped me growing up. I just don't want to be like other people. And I think it's always been hard because I feel like sometimes it's extremely hard to relate to people. I'm not like a lot of other people, but I also feel like I am, in the sense that we are connected. We're just choosing different styles and approaches to live life. I think a lot of the things that I say out loud, people are thinking, they just wouldn't dare say out loud. And so what you're going to get out of this podcast is genuine, authentic, moving, honest conversations and stories about life, how I view life, things that have happened, the ups, the downs, the traumatic and enlightening stories, real life stories. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the most unfiltered thing you've heard in a minute. I'm not worried about what some person or agency or boss is feeding me to say, because we got to get the numbers up. We got to, appeal to these kinds of audiences. Nah, stop that. Stop that right now. Shame on you. I want to say the things that people are thinking, but out loud. And I want to talk about them and have real life conversations about it. We're going to talk about things like philosophy. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about traumas. We're going to talk about absolutely fucking hilarious stories. Just dipshit conversations I've had with people that have moved me, or people in my life that I love dearly, and sometimes we're just fucking idiots. There's going to be a lot of laughs, and there's going to be a lot of cries, and a lot of happy tears, and a lot of sad tears, and literally a whole spectrum in between. And I also want to hear from you. I think when you get to a certain level of influencer or status, you have so many people that are following you that you lose track of the people that got you there in the first place. I've had people that have inspired me whose books that I've read in full, whole series of books, and I would reach out to them, ask them for a signed autograph or a message or whatever, and I took pretty big offense when they didn't reach out, because I feel like there's a lot of people that can talk a good talk And it's almost like a talent or a skill that I am just blown away. I don't know how they do it, but I'm surprised by the amount of people that could tell you how you must live your life, tell you the rules of how to get through and navigate life, but they can't do it themselves. And you could talk a big fucking talk, but are you actually living that life? And I think there's a lot of people that, are very quick to their elevator pitch responses and can just roll something off the tongue that sounds pretty and sounds good. And I'm quite amazed and impressed, actually, seriously, a skill to be able to so eloquently speak these words. But if you can't get into detail and get to the root and share extremely personal, vulnerable, heart-to-heart conversations in detail of exactly how bad things were or exactly the big accomplishments that you've been able to get, how real are you? How good are you, like, at just being human or relatable? Why are we so interested in these influencers or these people that can talk good talk, but they're not living that life? And so I want to be as relatable as possible because I am you. And I think I know we're going to go through this journey together. And we're going to see how things turn out. And you're going to see how things turn out. And I hope it's going to be stupid inspiring. I believe it really will. So what do I believe about life right now? I believe when you work hard, things pay off. I don't know if there's some cosmic, universal, whatever that's helping you get there. I think it's you. I think it's you and the power that you create for yourself. And, I want to talk about down the road when people say, people don't change. No one can change. Well, I'm a firm believer that you can change if you want to change. And if people aren't changing, it's because they don't want to change. They don't want to put in the work. They don't want it to be hard. They want it to be easy. They want to skirt through life. They want to shove it under the rug. They don't want to fucking confront people. They don't want to have conversations. They just want to block you and call it a day. Well, this is what an avoidant would do. An avoidant would... Shut the fuck up. Can we stop labeling everybody? Can we stop defining, must we wear these proverbial non-existent name tags? And you must be called this. We must identify as this. We need to appeal and cater to this. No, I'm sorry. That's just not my vibe. It's not who I am. So yeah, I believe life is what you want to make of it, while acknowledging that life is not just you in an individual bubble. I'm not a big fan of the expression like you're God or you're the creator of your own. Well, yes, you are the creator of your own life as long as you can acknowledge there are other people in your fucking life. There are other people around you. There's a cause and effect, and what you do and the people around you all affect each other. You can have a plan in life, but life has another plan. And I think that's important to note. You can still accomplish your goals. It might not be what it looks like in your head, but you're not the only person on the planet. There are other people, humans with a pulse, as I like to call them, other peoples with consciousness and different views and different opinions and different backgrounds. And we are forced, whether we like it or not, to be on this planet Earth together. So as much as you might want to be selfish or think about your own self, we are all connected and we all affect each other. So we might as well make the most of it. Might as well try to be the best person we can be, staying true to ourselves, but also acknowledging that there are other people in this world. And if we are all affecting each other, well, maybe we should not be raging dick assholes or sissy mama baby pants, because it might affect the person next to you. You know, there might be a chain of events or ripple effect that causes other things to happen. Excuse me, let me get a sip of my tea, please. I'm drinking this, it's called stress relief. It's really just fucking delicious. I think it's blueberry. It's that Yogi brand. Kind of into it. You know, I wish they had better Snapple facts, and I don't even know if Snapple does it anymore, but you pull from the tea bag and it has these little mantras and life quotes. It's pretty cute, but it's also cheesy and all debatable, in my opinion. I love playing devil's advocate, and I will say I'm the kind of person that wants to counter or challenge everything. And to be honest, no one said it to me. No one says anything to me out loud. No one really challenges me. It's really quite frustrating and annoying. But I like to challenge everything. I always like to show multiple sides of different stories to gain different perspectives. Because if I've learned anything in life or from philosophy or Scott Fitzgerald, there are no rules to this thing. You can change or stay the same. You can be whoever you want to be. And I think that's kind of important. Whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you believe in a political party or whatever the fuck you believe in, you kind of get to make your own decisions in life as long as you're being aware that other people are around you and exist too. Does that make sense? Ooh. Anyways, I think this is a pretty good start to a podcast, and I'm excited to go on this journey with you. And I'm excited to be in this place of my life where not everything's perfect. It's never gonna be, and I don't want it to be. But not everything is perfectly aligned. There are things that I am still working on, and there are things that I'm really proud of, and I want to see where life is going to take all of us. And I think when you see how things progress or the ups and downs, and as I start talking about things, real life experiences, and you're like, wow, this person's just like me. And this is life. It goes up and down. It moves sideways. It goes backwards. It does little, roller coaster loops. We're going to talk about how we can get through life and cope and manage and deal and try to be healthy, try to be productive, try to be sane. How we can fall in love again with life, with people, with yourself, with your family, your neighbors, your bosses, your friends, with your pets. I don't know if you have bad relationships with your pets. I'm just throwing it out there. That'd be interesting. Do you have problems with your pets? Let's talk about it. But I'm pretty excited because I do care about people. I think people can be very frustrating and difficult sometimes, but I'm a firm believer that people are the way they are for reasons. And the more you know, the more you understand. And if you understand something, that allows compassion and grace and love and beauty to come into your life. And I think we don't have to just board ourselves up in our houses and not go out because you're overwhelmed by people, you're disgusted with humanity, you're frustrated with life, and so you're just staying home and sulking and slowly withering away and dying. You know what I mean? So let's see what happens, huh? let's see what happens. Be really excited to talk about things that interest you. Talk about things that you want to hear out loud spoken about that you don't hear about, that you don't see, that no one's talking about or people are afraid to talk about. Just fucking talk about it, man. Really, the sky's the limit with me. I really don't have anything that I won't talk about. So hit me with your best shot. All right, peace out. Home slice skillet biscuits, friends and lovers, family and whoever, your fur baby friend. What? Okay, I'm stopping. I love you. Woo, 60 minutes, yeah.
All right, it's your turn. Let's do this. I know how to love, 'cause in my dreams I was taught by you. I know how to love, 'cause in my dreams I was taught by you. Just spend a little time with me, and maybe you will see that I'm just a little more than sweet. Just spend a little time with me, and maybe you will see that I'm just a little different and naive. Just spend a little time with me, and maybe you will see. Just temporarily fall